Now we'll see rock cycle. Rocks constantly change from one type to another. The rock cycle is a continuous process by which old rocks are transformed into new ones. Please underline this. Rocks cycle is a continuous process where old rocks are transformed into new ones. Okay, so rocks usually change their forms. Remember that as well. Okay, they always change their type from one type to the another type. All right. Number one, igneous rocks are formed from lava and magma. Please underline. How do we get igneous rock? Igneous rock, we get it from lava and from magma. Now, these are broken down into sediments, which are deposited, transported, and undergo pressure to form sedimentary rocks. So when these igneous rock, which we get from lava and magma, when they are broken down into different sediments, what they do, they usually get transported and migrate, and they undergo pressure, and they, because of the pressure, they turn themselves into a sedimentary rocks. Igneous rock and sedimentary rocks are further subjected to intense pressure and heat, forming a metamorphic. So can you see the chain? Number one, you can draw it in a form of a flow diagram also. Number one, igneous rock. How do we get that? We get that from magma and lava. And because of the pressure which is put on the igneous rock, we get the next, you will draw the flow chart. Next we get is the sedimentary rocks. Please underline that pressure to form sedimentary rocks. Undergo pressure to form sedimentary rocks. Now, this igneous and sedimentary rock is further, gets intense pressure, and then they form what? Metamorphic rock. Underline. Further subjected to intense pressure, forming metamorphic rocks. So the sedimentary igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, when they further get intense pressure, they form a metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rocks are melted by lava that flow over it, forming igneous rock after cooling. And this metamorphic rock, when it gets melted because of the lava, what happens is this this metamorphic rock again turns into igneous rock after when it gets cooled.
Crystallized and then
Yes. So can you see the cycle? Can you see the cycle? Number one, starting from igneous rock, then sedimentary rock, then metamorphic rock, then metamorphic rock. When it gets cooler, again then it forms into igneous rock. Please underline this, forming
And like they help
rock.
each other to form, ma'am.
Yes, they help each other to form. We will see there's a diagram also given. Can you see the, can you just show the diagram? Yeah. Can you see igneous rock number one? And can you see the arrow going up? Igneous rock turning into sedimentary rock because of the pressure, because of the transportation, because of the deposition. And then can you see that igneous sedimentary rock turning into metamorphic rock because of the pressure? And then the metamorphic rock, once that gets pressure, again it turns into igneous rock. So this is like a cycle which goes on. This is called as the rock cycle. Have you understood, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone? Okay,
Yes.
you need to draw these diagrams in your notebooks. Okay, the rock cycle diagram, even the diagrams which we had done before, Earth's crust, soil profile, all these diagrams need to be drawn neatly and labeled in your notebooks. Clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next, let's go further. All right, now we have question answers. Let's discuss this question answers. Number one is make a graphic organizer showing the types of rocks and their uses. So you can make a mind map, children, where you can show the different types of rocks and their uses. See, do it in your notebook so that it becomes easier for you all to study during your exam, because this is the most important chapter and you will get maximum questions from this chapter. Okay. Even do not leave the glossaries. Okay, the new term words which you all are getting from this particular chapter, don't leave that as well, because You might get a question even from there, an objective type question. Next is explain the formation of rocks and the rock cycle. So formation of rocks and the rock cycle, the paragraph which I just did, the rock cycle paragraph, you're going to write the entire paragraph, how the rock cycle works, and you are also going to uh, explain about the formation of rocks. This is there just above that. The paragraph which is there above that tells you about the how rocks are formed. Clear?
Yes,
ma'am.
So can one minute, can one person just tell me the page numbers which the students can refer to if they want to write about the types of rocks and their uses? Tell me which page number it is.
79.
79.
Very good. And formation of rocks and rock cycle is on page number?
79 only, ma'am.
79.
Hmm?
79.
79.
Okay. No, the all will not be on page
Ma'am,
number 79.
77. Ma'am, 77.
See, these are two different questions. Types of rock is on which question, which page number?
Ma'am,
Children, tell me.
77 and 78.
77A.
It is not 79. And then the next question.
The rock cycle is on 79.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is on 79. Rock cycle is on 79. Got it? Do
Yes,
not
yes,
confuse
ma'am.
yourself. Clear, everyone? Now, the
Yeah.
movements of the Earth's crust. Changes in the Earth's crust may happen suddenly, or it may happen, over millions of years. Sudden movements, like if there are sudden movements on the in the Earth's crust, like if there are earthquakes or volcanoes, they may change the landscape to a greater extent. Please underline movements like earthquakes and volcanoes. They may change the landscape of the Earth to a greater extent. Do you agree? The landscape of the Earth changes because if there are earthquakes. Yes or no? Or will it be the same? Even if there's earthquake, the landscape will remain same plane, or it is going to change?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, it will change.
ma'am.
Yes. The Earth's crust flows on the mantle in the form of a tectonic plates, which can move toward each other, away from each other, and grind along each other's boundaries. These are known as internal forces. They may be epirogenic, that is vertical, or orogenic, that is horizontal. The crust can also move up and down depending on the action of the molten mantle upon which it rests. So basically, you need to underline and understand that the Earth floats on the mantle. Now, whenever there is a change in the tectonic plates, okay, in the form. So what happens is there are changes when the internal as well as the external forces. What is vertical? There may be a vertical as well as a horizontal. Underline these words: vertical, horizontal. Underline what is known as internal force. Who will tell me what is internal force? Who will explain me what is internal force? No one?
The Earth's crust just floats on the mantle
Yes,
in the form
yes,
of
Shlok, very
tectonic,
good. The
in the form of
Earth's crust
tectonic
floats on the mantle, and then what happens?
and
It
then it
can
can like move forward from each other, away from each other, or like grind along each other's
yes.
boundaries, and so
Ah.
these are known as internal.
Internal forces. So when the earth crust is moving, it can either move toward or it can move forward, okay, and grind along each other's boundaries. So that is called that movement is called as the internal force. Clear? Now,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
more gradual change is caused by external force. So internally, if the earth crust is moving, there are hardly any changes, but you will see gradual changes when there are external forces applied. So this external forces is called as this change in the earth's crust because of the external forces is called gradation. Please underline the gradual change we can see because of the external forces, and this is called as gradation. Underline the whole sentence: a gradual change which is caused because of the external force is called as gradation. Clear? That's it. All right, next is gradation may involve either degradation or aggradation, both in combination. So degradation means is a wearing down of the land elevations by natural forces. It involves weathering, erosion, It is the wearing away of the Earth's surface or reducing of the elevations. Please underline, it is the wearing away of the Earth's surface or reducing of the elevations. Clear? That degradation happens because whenever there is weathering or whenever there is erosion. All right. Now, what is aggregation? This is exactly opposite to degradation. Okay. What is this? This is accumulation of sediments. Please underline. This is aggregation. The word itself is telling is self-explanatory. Here, what happens? There is an accumulation of the sediments. That's it. Where in the low-lying areas to an increase in the elevation. It is the filling up deposition or depressions, all level areas of the Earth's surface. Please underline this. It is the filling up. Can you see degradation? It is taking away, okay, the Earth's surface, and it is reducing the elevation. But aggregation is what? It is filling up all and making the levels areas of the Earth's surface. Can you make out the difference, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this happens because of internal force or external force? Who will tell me? Gradation happens because of what?
Gradation happens because of external forces.
Very good. Because of the external forces, not because of the internal forces. Okay, and gradation involves two different types. Which are the types?
Ma'am, degradation and aggradation.
What is degradation?
Ma'am, degradation is the wearing down of land elevation.
Reduction of elevations.
Yes, yes. And what is aggradation?
Ma'am, it is the accumulation of sediments
And it is
in
the filling
low-lying
up of
areas, leading
depressions
to
or
an
noble
increase.
areas of the Earth's surface.
Understood the difference between the two?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go further. Here you have a table given that which shows the movements of the Earth's crust. Can you see the table? Endogenic forces and exogenic forces. Endogenic is also called as internal forces. Exogenic is also called as external forces. Okay, internal forces may you have a very you don't have a vast change. It will be a slow and a sudden change. But in external forces you have two different types, that is degradation and aggradation. We just saw, right? Degradation is further classified into various aspects. What it is? Weathering, physical or mechanical, chemical, biological, erosions. These are all the causes because of which degradation happens. Okay, clear? Clear till here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sudden in the internal forces. 1 minute. 1 minute. Just show the diagram. In the internal forces, what happens suddenly in the internal forces?
Earthquake and volcano.
Or earthquake and volcano. Okay, that is internal because you have earthquake which happens internally. Even the volcano happens internally, isn't it? That's the reason it is called as endogenic. What are the things which occur slowly in the internal forces? For example, come on. Epirogenic, that is vertical upliftment or vertical subsidence. Okay, and the other see, slow processes further divided into two different types. Now, number one is epirogenic, and the number two is orogenic. Orogenic is what? Horizontal, and epirogenic is vertical. Remember this. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. Now, weathering, erosion, and their impact. You know what is weathering? Do you know what is weathering?
Ma'am, maybe change of weather, ma'am.
Weathering is change of weather.
Maybe.
Okay. Anybody else?
The erosion of like certain. Ma'am, is like erosion from the Earth's surface.
Yes. What is erosion then? What is the difference between weathering and erosion?
Ma'am, erosion is like the decomposition, ma'am.
Okay. Then what about weathering?
I don't
Okay,
know.
we will understand this. Okay, we will understand in depth what exactly is weathering, erosion, and what is their impact. Number one, let's understand weathering. Weathering is what? It is a slow disintegration and decomposition of rocks. It has nothing to do with the climate, Mariam. Okay,
Yes.
please underline this. What is weathering? That's the reason I asked you. What do you understand by weathering? Weathering is what? It is a slow process where decomposition or disintegration of rocks takes place. Okay, in the place of their origin by the forces of nature. This is very important. By forces of nature. So this weathering doesn't happen, it is not a man-made thing. This happens naturally because of the natural forces. Do underline this, by forces of nature. Okay, so weathering, what happened now? Tell Mariam, what do we mean by weathering?
Ma'am, weathering is the disintegration and decomposition of rocks, ma'am.
How?
Ma'am, in the place of their origin
By
by
the
the forces of nature.
Yes, so answer in complete sentences. Okay, so
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
how this weathering takes place. Okay, and weathering has no relationship or nothing to do with the climate. Okay, this is related with the rocks. Now, based on how weathering occurs, it can be classified into mechanical or physical, chemical or biological weathering. Please underline, how are weathering classified into? Three types. Which three types? Number one,
Physical, chemical, or
Physical,
biological.
chemical and biological.
mechanical,
physical,
no,
chemical, and
physical, chemical and
biological
biological.
weathering. Now we will understand in depth. Can you see the diagram given? See, the flow chart is already there in front of you. Can you see the diagram? Types of weathering. There are
Yes,
three
ma'am.
types: physical, chemical, and biological. Physical weathering happens because of what? Because of what? What three things are responsible for physical?
Granular exfoliation and block disintegration.
Block disintegration. Very good. Why do we have chemical weathering?
Ma'am, it
Oxidation,
is for ma'am
carbonation, and
oxidation,
hydration.
carbonation, hydration, and solution.
And
Solution. So
solution.
these are all related to air and water, right? Chemicals.
Yes, ma'am.
What about biological? The word biological itself is self-explanatory.
Yes,
Means
ma'am.
what?
Human,
Plants,
Animal
plants, and
burrowing and
animals.
human
animals, and
activity.
human
Yes.
Plant roots, animal burrowing,
Clear?
human activity.
So this is
Yes,
how
ma'am.
Yes,
weathering
ma'am.
is divided into different types. Just go on to the next page. Yeah, you can maximize it. Next, now we will study. We just saw that it in a tabular form. Now we will study all these topics in depth. What exactly, how exactly, weathering is divided into, and what in each of the type we are going to study in depth. Number one, see, all three types of weathering are interconnected. Okay, do you all agree with this? All are interconnected, whether it is chemical,
Yes, ma'am.
biological,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
mechanical. Now let's see. Let's study about physical or mechanical weathering. What happens in physical or mechanical weathering? In this, rocks are broken into smaller pieces without a change in their chemical nature. So here, what happens in physical and chemical weathering? Please underline. The rocks are broken into smaller pieces. All right, but there is no change in their chemical nature. Okay, the chemical nature remains the same. It's just that they are broken down into smaller pieces. Can you please underline this? Rocks are broken into smaller pieces. Clear? What is physical weathering? Who will tell me?
Ma'am, when the rocks are broken into smaller pieces without the change in the chemical
Very
composition.
good, Shlok. They are broken into smaller pieces without the change in chemical nature. Please underline without the change in the chemical nature. Yes. Now, why they are broken into smaller pieces,
Ma'am,
and
it is
how it is possible that they don't change their chemical nature? We will study that. Number one, they are broken down into smaller pieces because of the extreme temperature differences during day and night. Underline this. Extreme temperature differences during day and night. Now let's understand what is this. During the day, the rocks are heated by the sun and they cool down rapidly at night. Do you all agree with this?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Summers may, if you would touch any rock, you would feel that the rock is very heated because of the
Yes,
sun's heat.
ma'am.
And the same rock, if you would touch in the at night time, you will find it in a
Ma'am, in the
cooler
night
state,
time it will be rather cold, ma'am.
rather cold.
Yes, ma'am.
Clear? Now,
Okay.
continuous expansion and contraction of the rocks causes it to crack and disintegrate. Please underline this: the continuous expansion and contraction. Expansion means the rock is expanding because it is getting heated by the sun,
Yes, ma'am. And when
and
it
it
is
is
cool, it
contracting
contracts.
because it is getting cooler during the night time. So this is happening with the rocks. They are continuously expanding and they're continuously contracting. And because of that, what happens is there are cracks in the rocks and they disintegrate. The smaller pieces undergo the same process over a long period of time. This is a common in desert region. That's the reason in desert region you do not find big rocks, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please underline this. The same process over a longer period of time. Okay, so this happens for a longer period of time. And where is this common? In the desert region.
Desert.
Encircle the desert region. Just encircle the desert region. So this is how the rocks are broken into smaller pieces. Number one, who will explain me how extreme temperature uh, results in breaking
And
of the rocks into smaller pieces?
during the day,
Continuous
ma'am, the rocks,
expansion and
they're
contraction of the
One
rock causes
one child, yes. One student, yes. Yes, no, go ahead.
extreme temperature. Ma'am, extreme temperatures in differences during the day and night, ma'am. So, ma'am, during the day, ma'am, the rocks are heated by the
Hmm.
sun, and during night time, they are cooled, and that is why,
Can
ma'am,
you be
during
louder, little louder, please?
yes, ma'am. During the day, the rocks they are heated by the
Hmm.
sun, but in the night they are more like they are cooled down, and
Hmm.
so the continuous expansion and the contraction of the rock it causes it to like break and crack and disintegrate.
Yes, yes. And if this happens, for a longer period, then you will have the rocks into smaller pieces. And this is common in which region usually?
Desert region.
The desert region.
desert.
Okay, this is one reason why rocks are breaking into smaller pieces. Let's see what is the next action. Okay, what is the other reason why? You will definitely get a give reason question. Okay, why rocks break into smaller pieces? Number two, the second reason is action of frost. Please underline this: action of frost. Now let us understand what happens in this. When water seeps into the cracks in a rock, it freezes when there is drop in the temperature. This water turns into ice, which expands. This causes the rocks to crack. During the day or on warmer days, the ice melts and the water seeps further into and now wider crack. Freezing again when the temperature drops. This process continues until the rocks breaks down completely. This is common usually in the temperate region. So what happens is there's a big rock. Okay, now whenever there is a fall in the temperature, okay, so what happens, this water goes or seeps into the cracks. Now suddenly whenever the temperature is cold, what happens, that water which has already entered the rock, it becomes ice. Now if it is becoming into converting it into ice, it is definitely expanding the rock. Yes, yes or no?
Yes.
And again when there is heat, what happens is the ice is further converted into water, and the water further enters the deep into the rock. And again when it is freezing, that particular water again changes into what? Ice. So this process happens until the entire rock is broken down into pieces. So this is also the reason how the rocks are broken down into smaller pieces. That is the action of frost. Okay, water getting frosted. Clear children?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Underline. First
Yes.
underline, water seeps into the cracks. That's it. Now underline, turns into ice which expands. Okay, Then again underline, the ice melts and water seeps further into the rock, into the crack. Okay, then freezes again. That's it. Then underline this, continuous till the rocks breaks down. So this process continues till the rocks breaks down, and encircle temperate regions. Clear? Clear? So now if you will only see what we have highlighted, you will come to know. Water seeps into the crack. Okay, this water turns into ice, it expands, then the ice further melts and becomes water. This water further seeps deeper into the crack and again freezes again. And this continuous process leads to what? The breaking down of the rocks, which usually happens in the temperate regions. Clear, everyone? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Physical weathering may cause the following. Okay, because of physical weathering, what happens is, number one, there is a granular disintegration. That means rocks breaks into smaller grains. Okay, next is exfoliation. That means each layer of the rocks peels off like a layer of an onion. Have you seen the layers of onion?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am.
Okay, so because of physical weathering, these are the impacts. You can say these are the impacts of the physical weathering. Please, you might definitely get a question on this. Please underline what I'm explaining to you. Number one, because of physical weathering, the rocks break into smaller grains. Number two, the rocks peels off like the layers of onions. Number three, block disintegration. A large block of rock breaks off from the main rock along the big crack or a joint. This is caused mainly by frost action. We just saw what do we mean by frost action? So during because of the frost action, what happens? A large rock is broken down into smaller rocks. That is block disintegration. Please underline all these three: granular disintegration, exfoliation, block disintegration. Exfoliation, underline, rocks peels off like layers of onion. Granular disintegration, underlines, breaks into smaller grains. And then block disintegration, you can write down, or you can just underline, large rock breaks off. Large rocks breaks off by frost action. That's it, by frost action. So you know how are these large rocks breaking? Because of the frost action. Clear till here, everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next is chemical weathering, and it's almost time up, so I'll stop here for today. I'll continue to